Attorney Fallon, state at this time would call Lieutenant Kelly Sippel. The court. Very well. The clerk, please raise your right hand. Lieutenant Kelly Sippel, called as a witness herein, having been first duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. The clerk, please be seated. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. The witness, Kelly Sippel, Sippel. The court. Counsel, before we proceed, is everybody in compliance with the sequestration arrangement here? Are there any other? Attorney Fallon, yes, I only have one other witness, and I believe he is out in the hall. The court. Okay. Direct examination by Attorney Fallon. Question, where are you employed? Calumet County Sheriff's Department. How long have you been employed? Since October 21st, 1981. What rank do you currently hold? Lieutenant. How long have you been a lieutenant? Since 94. All right, prior to that, what duties or rank had you held? Patrol officer, patrol duties related to street level activities. Attorney Buting. Judge, can I interrupt here for a second? The court. Yes. Attorney Buting. With regard to sequestration, I see that Investigator Wiegert is in back. I understand the state is not intending to call him. However, there may still be a possibility I would. It's unlikely, but it's still possible I might call him after this, and I would ask that he be sequestered. Attorney Fallon. I can ask him to leave. He's right. I wasn't going to call him. The court. Mr. Wiegert will ask you to leave the courtroom then. Question by Attorney Fallon. Directing your attention to the events of November 5th, 2005, were you called upon to assist in the execution of a search warrant at the Avery property located here in Manitowoc County? Yes, I was. All right. Approximately what time did you first arrive upon the scene? About 3:20 p.m. on the 5th. What were your duties? Upon arriving at the scene, I was initially put with two other Manitowoc County investigators to assist in doing a sweep of the buildings on the property in an attempt to locate the potential victim and or other civilians that still may be on the property to secure them off the property. All right, and how long did that particular duty take you? Estimated time. That went until about 5:40 in the evening on the 5th. All right, and once those duties were completed, what was your next assignment relative to the execution of the warrant? At that point in time, I began to contact additional officers and staff from our department in an attempt to secure and lock down the property and start initiating shifts for the upcoming hours. All right, and so it would be fair to say that you were assigned or in charge of perimeter security? That would be correct, of the inner perimeter. All right, just so that we're clear, what would be the inner perimeter? First, directing your attention to Exhibit 18, which is on the easel resting on the jury box. We took the inner perimeter utilizing the roadway at the top of the map. If you would like, I can go over. You can have that. I think we have a laser pointer there for you. Above this roadway, there is a fence line located here, and you're pointing to the roadway which goes east-west across, travels east and west, due north would be to the top of the photograph. All right. We also had the roadway here, but we had another fence line or berm, a property divider, basically. Now, you're referring to the east? East of the property. And in the western half of the property, there was another berm, and beyond that berm, it went into some open gravel pit areas, and pretty much to the same across the bottom half of the property here. And then we made a containment within this general area. All right, now briefly, if I may direct your attention to Exhibit 19, which is behind you. And can you locate Exhibit 18 within the confines of Exhibit 19? This would be the property in question right here. All right. Now, in terms of the perimeter security here, starting Saturday night, what efforts did you undertake? Prior to my arrival on the 5th, the vehicle had been located in this lower southeast quadrant of the property. We had assigned a deputy to stay at this location during the processing and the removal of that vehicle. We also had I believe it was around 1:30 in the afternoon, they had assigned an officer to stay in this quadrant of the property in regard to the buildings here. That officer was relieved at about 14:50 hours by another officer. And then, I'm going to stop you right there. The last quadrant, that would be the northwest quadrant. This would be the northwest corner of the property. All right, that's the area for which Mr. Avery's trailer and garage and his sister Barbara's residences are located. That would be correct. All right, please continue. You said after that area. At this point, we had set up a command post at the intersection here, coming off of Avery Road, and where these two roads come off of that, heading south. And at approximately 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, a sergeant from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department informed me of the area located in the southwest quadrant that vehicular traffic may be able to get into the property. All right, now, you just pointed to Exhibit 19, so you are referencing what would be the southwest corner of the property? That's correct. All right, once you learned that, what steps did you take? Both him and I, then, went around to that to take a look at what kind of access or easement there would be into this particular area and determined that the vehicular access would basically incur in this corner. At that point in time, we made arrangements to cover that corner as well with another officer. All right, and when you covered the area with an officer, can you tell us what you meant by that? We were able to place a patrol officer at that location for the remainder of the week, 24/7. All right, now, if I may for a moment, Exhibit 18 is a photograph with the flight date of November 11th. I draw your attention, first of all, to this corner, on the southwest side. Do you recognize what is depicted there? Yeah, this would be one of the units or patrol vehicles that we used for staffing that corner. Now, would that be a typical location where the perimeter security was set up for that southwest corner? That is correct. This line that you see here is an old rail, overhead rail. Yes, the unit would either be on one side or the other side of that rail. Now, with respect to the upper quadrant, there's a vehicle, which is depicted right here underneath the sign, Plymouth Voyager. That's correct. Or the arrow points elsewhere. What is that vehicle? That is also a patrol unit that was used. Those cars change periodically depending on who was covering that corner. But during the day, we would have officers back up and allow the investigators to do their work throughout this area. Then at night, we would move that patrol car closer into the buildings, in about this area here. All right, so you are pointing to an area which is directly in front of the residence of Stephen Avery, the garage. Is that correct? That's correct. All right, now, how about in the southeast corner? Were there evidence of, on this photograph, for instance, where it's exemplifying perimeter security placement? That's correct. We have a patrol car located right here. This car would utilize this corridor through here, through the day, and through the evening to cover this berm area. This is an area that goes up, be estimating 60 feet, an upward climb basically to a hayfield. And then there was a bit of a berm back here, and he or she was able to cover this corner and watch those berms. All right. At night, the first 2 days, we actually had that lit even. Attorney Buting, could we just let the record reflect that when he was pointing to the southeast corner, talking about a berm along the south edge of the property, where were you talking? The witness, there's 2 berms. There's a higher berm of approximately 60 feet or better, located along this edge. and then there's a shallower attorney buting. This edge being the eastern edge, that would be the eastern edge. Attorney buting, okay? The witness. And then along this southern edge here, there's another berm that goes up approximately anywhere from, it varies, 10, 15, 20 feet, and then drops down into another quarry, an actual old gravel or sand pit quarry. Attorney buting. That's fine. Attorney Fallon, thank you. Question by Attorney Fallon. All right. And in terms of the northeast corner, what was happening there? The northeast corner on Saturday the 5th, right about this area, we had a command post set up. Just for identification purposes, that's an area to the right of the exhibit sticker and slightly north, of the number 3. It would be just adjacent to the number 3. You can just kind of catch it on the photograph where we had the command post. All right, and now, in terms of perimeter security, were there other command post locations or anything that you utilized? Saturday, and in through Saturday evening, we utilized this command post. And Sunday morning, the Calumet County Sheriff's Department brought in our own command post, and we reorganized at this location here, utilizing this command post for the investigators, and this command post became command security, basically, for the property. All right, and you put your initials on that particular, all right, thank you. And you put your initials, for the record, what initials did you put on there? KS, thank you, all right. Now, in terms of the perimeter security here, who else, if anyone, assisted you in performing those duties? The interior perimeter was pretty much maintained by employees of the Sheriff's Department with assistance from various other agencies when we couldn't fill staffing gaps. Basically, we had to rely on other municipal agencies to assist us on the inner perimeter. Referring to the map behind me, the exterior perimeter, being the highway and the roadways around the adjacent acreage, was maintained by the Wisconsin State Patrol and managed by the State Patrol. And they were also assisted by various sheriff's departments and municipal agencies. All right, now, in terms of returning then, again, to Exhibit 18, these postings on the four corners of the property, was there always a car there during the course of the week-long occupation of the property? That is correct. All right, and during the course of the week, were any artificial lights or anything used during the evening hours to assist in keeping an eye on things? That is correct. In this lower quadrant here, in the southeast quadrant, we did have lights set up to cover these berms coming into the property, where we could actually light up the physical berm to see anyone breaching from the top. All right, at any point did those lights move, or were they utilized for any other purposes? As the week went on through searching, we started searching properties adjacent to the 40 or so acres involving our inner perimeter, and we started finding items that we felt that might be evidentiary purpose or needed for evidentiary purposes and quarries to the southwest of the property. At that point, midweek, going into Thursday, we started putting additional officers, on those evidence areas until we could physically recover. Then we began to light these quarry areas as well at that point. And what was the purpose of that? To secure, basically, the evidence, or what we felt was evidence, that we were finding in those quarries. All right, now, in terms of overall, although not your primary function, were you aware of where certain checkpoints were located on the surrounding roads? Referring to the map behind me, primary checkpoints, that's Exhibit 19. Exhibit 19, for the record. I'm not sure how to pronounce the community. Larimore, I believe, or Laramie, I'm not quite sure. It's a small community just off this particular photo where the highway meets here with another county trunk. And the primary checkpoint for the exterior perimeter was located there. And that's Highway 147. And is the road that it intersects with, is that any part of that road depicted on the exhibit? This part of the map here, or photograph, you can see a portion of that roadway. All right, and you're referring to Exhibit 19, the road that runs diagonally across the southwest quarter, and then they had an officer located at this intersection here. And this intersection was also blocked at this location. And Manitowoc County Sheriff provided an officer at the north end of Avery Road at 147 to manage individuals coming in and out of the crime scene. All right, now, in terms of access, was the inner perimeter, as you say that you were responsible for, was security maintained for the entire 7 days? Correct. All right. At any time, well, let's ask this question. You yourself, in charge of perimeter security, were you at the property the entire 7 days? No. All right. Who else filled in your duties when you were not there? I was relieved by Lieutenant Bowe of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. All right, and in terms of that, how did you and Lieutenant Bowe organize or supervise those responsible for perimeter security? We would supervise the security from the command post. We would work approximately 30-hour shifts. Lieutenant Bowe relieved me Sunday morning. I stayed on Sunday morning, the 6th through the 7th, where we worked together in trying to organize staffing as we were going on. Approximately 7 p.m. on Sunday evening, I left, and then I would return on Monday morning to relieve Lieutenant Bowe, who then would leave sometime late afternoon on Monday, early evening. So we always had a portion of at least 8 hours, the two of us working together, trying to formulate and create and keep the security. And then we always would have one of us working the night shift. All right, and during the course of the week, to your knowledge, were there any attempts by other individuals, non-law enforcement people, to come in and see what was going on? If I could refer to Exhibit 19 behind me, we did have several attempts. First attempt would have occurred an incursion by the press from this farm located to the southeast of the property. The press did come in and park at this farm, and as the individual was walking across this field, and as he began to breach the berm, the officer at this location observed that breach, contacted the command post. I then left on an ATV, made contact with that press individual on that berm prior to him setting up, removed him and walked him back to the farm to his vehicle, identified him, and removed him from that area. As a result of that incident, were there any additional precautions taken with respect to perimeter security? At that point, this town road, I believe, that travels north and south here, was then closed by Manitowoc Sheriff's Department to local travel only at that point. All right, any other concerns or possible interested bystanders who approached the area while it was under your control? We had another attempt by two individuals, two local residents, curious residents, who, as they were coming down this fence line, approaching from 147 from the north, heading south to the northwest corner of the property, they got to about halfway down this fence line when officers from the command post area, as well as officers that were working within the interior scene, started to move toward them. They then retreated up the fence line and were apprehended by Manitowoc Sheriff on a driveway just off 147. They were placed in handcuffs, returned to my location at the command post. I identified them, warned both individuals that a return to the property would result in their arrest. All right. Were they then escorted back to beyond the checkpoint? They were then escorted back out, up to the checkpoint, back out to 147. All right, now, at nighttime, just so that we're fair here, is it conceivable or possible that there could have been a perimeter breach? Could someone have hoofed it in, so to speak? It's very possible that someone coming in from any one of the quarries or wooded areas could have breached by foot. All right. Is that the reason why lights were then placed down in the quarry area later on in the week? Initially, those lights were placed at the vehicle location for the vehicle, and then we began to use them when the vehicle was removed for that purpose. All right. And secondarily, at the command post here, we had a state trooper sergeant at the command post. He would relieve his staff for breaks and bathroom breaks and meal breaks. And when he would return, I would travel, or Lieutenant Bo would travel, through the property periodically at night and relieve our staff on the corners for breaks and meals and so forth. During the course of the week, was it difficult to navigate through the property to get from one side to the other? Unfortunately, on Saturday evening, we had a heavy rainstorm, and the roadways within this area here filled at locations with water. Most became fairly impassable. You can see some of the water still in some of the locations on this photo with passenger vehicles. We, as an agency, did have a four-wheel drive Explorer, and that first day or two, we did travel through, but because of how difficult it became at times, we then, when we had to move out to this location, we quite often went all the way around the perimeter and off of the county trunk here through the quarries. But yes, it was difficult at times. All right, and do you have any approximate estimate for us? Approximately how many officers you utilized or were assisting you in just the task of perimeter security? Every day, 24/7, we always had security here, officer in this corner, and the southeast corner. And then throughout the day, due to searching, evidentiary reasons, there were officers throughout the property as well. And then we had the exterior covered, by other agencies. I would have to resurrect logs to determine exactly how many officers was on the security. All right, now, one moment. Attorney Fallon. I have no other questions for the witness. Attorney Buting. No cross, Your Honor. The court. Okay, the witness is excused. The witness. Thank you.